The summer coat's coming soon.
Welcome to base camp.
Woo!
Thank you for braving the weather. It's rough out there.
Made it up to the base camp.
Made it up to the base camp.
He took the elevator though.
You are
the elevator
Changed
to
up,
base
sorry.
camp.
That's all right. We all have to start somewhere, right? All right. Well, let's start. Let's start with Phil from Inspiro.
Yeah,
He can
Phil!
not only motivate us and inspire us to use Inspiro, but he's also going to give us some really cool information.
Inspires to use Inspiro.
Please.
I didn't say
Right?
big.
Kelly will have a good story here in about 3 weeks. We're going to ram through a USDA loan for him. Just closed one for Rick. We're killing it down there.
Unbelievable.
We appreciate what you guys are doing to support us. I came here because of their rates and their fees versus where I was for 5 years. And, you know, that can just roll off of people's heads, but it's a big deal. It's a big deal for your buyers. So if we can help you out, please come let us. That wasn't what I wanted to talk about. Jason asked us to do the base camp next week, and instead of us getting up here and talking about stuff like that, have you guys heard about the new FICO scoring system?
No.
Coming out this summer called FICO 10. Okay, so it's a new scoring system where they do what they call weighted averaging, and they're going to be placing a lot more emphasis on what like derogatories and credit usage over the past 24 months versus the full picture. So things like student loans, old medical collections, stuff like that are not going to be weighted very heavily. But if you've got a lot of usage and debt, or you have had revolving installment or mortgage late in the last 24 months, it's going to hurt you a lot worse than it has in the past. So what I did was, I've got a good buddy I've worked with for a long time named Alex Grimness, and he's the president of a company called Premier Credit Consulting. And I asked him to come talk about that, and he said, I'll do you one better. I'll come talk about that, and we'll do a free 1-hour elective CE course while we're doing it. So if any of you guys need a free hour of CE next week, just come to base camp. It's very interactive, and he really knows his stuff. So that's what we'll be doing next week, and hope you guys can come. And
Phil, just a plug for Alex. I've used Alex for years now from Phil, and I have gotten clients really conditioned to afford a lot more homes and a lot better interest rates through Alex. They're very user-friendly, I guess we could use.
Does he do repairs?
Yes,
yeah,
yes, that's what they do. And I'll tell you what, I've used him to keep my credit scores in the 700-800 range, just as they keep an eye on it. So I've used it just as a maintenance tool.
yeah.
So,
Well, and I won't get into it because I know you guys, I'm not the main speaker today by any stretch of the imagination, but their service, they'll do a free evaluation, whereas a lot of companies charge you $400 or $500 to review it, and I think their enrollment fee is like $189 versus $500, and it's a month-to-month deal. You can, once your score's there, you can get out. You don't have to sign a year-long contract. That's not what he's coming to talk about, but you know, that's the type of service they offer. So anyway, hope you guys have a great meeting, and if we can help you with anything, let us know.
awesome.
Thanks, Phil. Lisa, you have anything from Vanguard?
We love you, thank you.
There we go. That makes us feel better, right? Awesome. Anything else going on this week?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we got the Easter egg hunt that Jonathan's heading up.
Okay.
So if we could just touch on that briefly because we're
Yeah.
running out of time.
Yeah. So, just Easter egg hunt for your SOI. I know a number of you signed up this morning. We'll pass this around. Really, it's a minimal investment for what you get back. Just from doing these events last year, I made 33 for my SOI because of these. and this year I already have one under contract.
Nice.
So, yeah, yes.
Where's the location this year?
Great question. Tomorrow we're gonna meet from 9 to 10 to decide date, time, location. So if you wanna say that, be here tomorrow from 9 to 10.
Perfect.
Great.
Thank
Any other
you.
questions about those? Awesome. Anything else this week? Okay, awesome. So today we have Matt with us, and you know, one thing that we do when in this company, like a lot of times we'll think of somebody with a high production as like that's the one we want. But in the company here, we look at actually a couple of different things. Production is definitely something that we want, but we also want agents that participate in what we do. We want agents that have good attitudes. We want agents that will help other agents out. That's what we really look for. So there might be some agents that aren't producing a whole lot, but have a huge influence on the organization, and those are the ones that we like in here. That's why you guys are in here, because you guys have some of those qualities. And today with Matt is definitely one of our top producers. He's been in the business for 3 years, and keeps his time busy because he's got 2 little boys. And he's going to talk to us today a little bit about success through failure, and turn the time over to you, Matt.
Okay.
All right, man. Yeah.
Thank you, guys. I know you're have a million things you can do in your business, and I appreciate you coming out here. I actually was planning on just presenting to Ruby and Jason, so I'm glad you guys are tagging along. Actually, want to start off with some higher energy, so let's do a George yes, yes, yes. Everybody
Awesome.
stand up.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. All right, 3, 2, 1. Yes, yes, yes! Hey, thank you guys. I know you thought you were gonna be able to take a nap here at this meeting, but all right. So success through failure. Failure is something that obviously all of us have to push past. I was telling Jason, he was asking me what's the point of this. I mean, great title, but what's the point? And really, in my mind, the only reason we don't achieve our goals, we don't accomplish really what our dreams are, is because we either fear of failure, or the failure is too painful once we come across it, right? So I wanted to, but the most important thing with this topic is we have to start with our goals, the foundation. Otherwise, we can't push past anything if our goals aren't big enough. So the first point I want to talk about is dreaming big. Okay, so dreaming big is obviously really important. What we need to look at is, are we looking at our goals and determining what we want to do that year, or 3 years, or 5 years out from now, and we like the idea of them, or we say, you know what, it would really be cool to close 100 deals a year. Like, that sounds awesome. You know, I hear about Mike Tafui, he's going to do 100 deals. I want to do 100 deals too.
Yeah, Mike.
Put it out there.
And or are we actually committed to our dreams? And if it's a dream, it has a whole new life to it, right? Our dream needs to be our baby. It needs to be something that we're willing to make a sacrifice for. Okay, if you had a baby, and Mike's got a baby. How old's your baby, Mike?
10 months.
10 months old. Okay, he's got his 10-month-old, and now it's probably crawling all over the place. But let's say before it was 10 months old, you put it in a stroller, and he's got it all nice and tucked in a little burrito, right? And you get distracted. You're talking to a friend, and it starts rolling down a hill, the stroller. Okay, what are you gonna do?
Run.
You're gonna run after that,
Yeah.
right? So you're gonna run after your baby. What if you trip on a curb? Are you just gonna be like, man, see ya? See ya, baby. Yeah.
You get back up and keep running.
Right. See ya, Mike Jr. Yeah. No, you're gonna get back up, and you're gonna start running, right?
Yeah.
Get up and run. So if our goals are our baby, we're gonna do the same thing. So what's something that you've done, that you've come across, that's been a hurdle in your business, something that was difficult to overcome?
Calling for sell by owners in the beginning
Oh,
terrified me.
absolutely.
I mean, because I knew that they were going to hate me. This is the story I told myself. But as I called and I realized that 90% of them were really nice. And, some of them were a condition. Some of it, they just wanted to try themselves. But ultimately, in the long run, through follow-up, I did a lot of business. A lot of business through them.
Yeah, you get better at your follow-up, you get
Correct.
better confidence, you
That's it.
overcome that rejection, right?
Yeah. As a
Absolutely.
guy, I'm very used to rejection.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember calling for sell by owners my first several months of business. I have a strong analytical personality, and energy does not come naturally to me at all. And I remember calling them, and I was following the script, and they'd say, "Is this a robot, or is this a recording? Is this a robot?" And I was like, "Oh man, that's embarrassing. That is embarrassing." Okay. Anybody else? Jason.
For me, it was SOI. Just feeling like
That's a big
I'm
one.
intruding on them, and like I've had a relationship with them in another area, and now I'm trying to insert my real estate into that relationship. That was a struggle for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Still sometimes is for some of them.
Which is so funny, because those are the people that want you to succeed, right?
Yeah.
Those are the people that actually want you to succeed more than anybody else, but we can get really intimidated by them. Okay. Yeah, my first, so talking about dreaming big, my second interview for a brokerage that I was going to, Mountain Land Realty is who I was with for a couple years before I came here. And last week was my 1-year anniversary here at this
Nice.
brokerage.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. And but it was a really good brokerage for me to start at. It helped me think a little bit bigger. When I first interviewed there, I was sitting down with the recruiter, and I was thinking, he said, "What is your goal this year?" And I was like, and none of these numbers are bad. He said, "What's your number one goal?" And I said, "Well, I want to do 12 transactions. I want to do 12 transactions, and I want to eventually work up to 24 transactions by the time I retire." And he's like, "Okay."
Wow.
And I was like, "Well, because I like the income that was supposed to come from that." And one thing I didn't understand is how expenses work in real estate either. So how much expense and taxes come into that money. But he said, "Well, there's no real reason why you can't do 24 transactions your first year." And all of a sudden, my mind just, literally I had this fixed goal. I was like, "Man, I'm going to hit that. This is my baby." And then all of a sudden, my eyes opened. And I was like, "Whoa, what's really possible?"
You're gonna be able to retire in a year.
Yeah.
That's good, Rob.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But all of a sudden I was like, wow, okay. And I asked him a lot of questions, and he kind of was explaining how things work. But that was one moment where I started to dream a little bit bigger. And there's nothing wrong with 24 transactions. Everybody who's doing that, that's great production. But as an ultimate goal for myself, I looked a little bit broader and thought, I'm capable of more. So we always talk about this, but this is really, really important. So our dreams are really important, but our why directly correlate with our dreams. So, Mike, in 5 years from now, honestly, what do you want to be doing for production level?
About 500.
500,000.
Yeah,
Okay. And why is that?
because it's more than what I'm doing now.
Right, yeah. Because it sounds
Right?
good, right?
Yeah.
I completely understand. Okay. Anybody have a big goal they want to achieve they've already determined before this meeting?
Well, not really like a goal, but like as you're talking about your mind expanding,
Yeah.
I was talking with a neighborhood friend, and we were talking about, we're both like, we're our own sales team, so
Yeah.
we're not out there making it. I mean, I know you think, well, title's all cushy, but I gotta get out there and sell and produce too. And if I don't bring in the deals, nobody's feeding my family.
Yeah.
And the next morning I listened to a YouTube that was the 1%, and he talked about having money for my son's kids, and I was like, that's what I want.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't want to like spoil them rotten, but like, wouldn't it be so awesome if they had their needs met and they could like do their dreams? You know,
Yeah.
like if being in a band was like their ultimate whatever, you know?
Yeah.
That like my work and my success was that their basics were covered, you know? And I'd never even thought, like, I'm like, okay, this month the bills are paid, yay!
Yeah.
You know? But to like think of that far down the road, like really expanded like my why. Like, oh, it's not just about me, it's about my family.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you're talking about is creating a legacy.
Yes.
Creating a legacy for
Yes.
future generations, changing your family tree. It's very similar to my wife's why, and why she wants to do what she's doing. Anybody who's, I just have to put a plug in here, anybody who's looking or even considering a new escrow officer, Lisa Cruz,
Oh.
right here is literally the best.
You're too
And
kind.
seriously, and did you have a comment, Ruby?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, you know, your why changes along the way quite a bit.
Yeah.
Like after the last few months and the last few years, for me, I want to open a youth center eventually in like
Wow.
5 years, and be helpful to the young that don't have family or that are struggling, and actually build resources for them to succeed. And it's about leaving the legacy and helping them in so many different ways. Like you talk about the foundation, and it really just, I'm like, it's just a little. It doesn't take a big dip into you, but you can make a big difference because it adds up. And like in 5 years down the road, I want to open a youth center, and then like she said, I want to have enough for my kids and their family, and having them grow, and so they can eventually give back. You know,
Yeah.
that's such a big why for me, and it changes as time goes. But
Absolutely. So that why is why. It's why you're setting big goals that you really want to achieve. That becomes your baby because you have this underlying motivation, right? Lisa Cruz wants to do so many transactions or close so many deals or so many files. I can't remember what you call it, files. And because she wants to create a legacy. And that why may change. It may become more specific as she goes on, just like you're saying. But that is going to be the underlying thing. So this is very important. We had to have this foundation. For me, my personal why is a little funny. I've learned a lot about myself over the last year, and my why is yes. And what I mean by that is I grew up with, and it's not that I grew up in a rough childhood, but I grew up with parents that loved me and they did everything they could for me. But I also grew up in a house of 8 children, and that's a lot of kids. And so my dad, he made probably about $100,000 a year, and for 8 kids in California, that wasn't very much money. And so there were several times throughout my childhood when we got sat down with my mom and dad, and they would say, we're struggling with our finances, and we need to cut back here and here and here, and we just want to let all the kids know. And I've struggled with that concept, over the last couple of years, thinking about having to sit my kids down and tell them that. I don't know exactly what I would have done as an 8-year-old to save on the finances, but but I remember being an 8-year-old and worried about finances, and getting the answer no a lot to activities like piano lessons and sports and things like that. And so my why personally is I want to be able to say yes to my wife that we can go buy a lake house, or yes to a charity and we can give $10,000 to Foundation Underground Railroad, or yes to my children so they could do extra activities. I'm not always going to say yes, but I want the ability to say yes and completely abandon the mind of scarcity and focus on just abundance.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah.
I think you were a great example of my comment about why, and that is if your why doesn't make you cry when you're sharing it with people, it's not your real why. You've got to go deeper. so it's gotta be as emotional as your actual, flesh and blood.
Yeah.
Or something like, your situation. That why just has to elicit that kind of emotion, because if it doesn't create emotion with you, then you won't achieve it.
Absolutely.
It's just not rooted deep enough.
Thank you for sharing that. That's really profound. Okay. All right, so now that we talked about kind of these big dreams and what's important there, the second thing I want to talk about briefly is our past performances, okay? When we come to failures, we define, and this is bad, okay? A lot of times we look back at our past performances and determine what our future successes are going to look like, okay? That past performance, oh man, last year, I know my goal was $400,000, and I know it's $400,000 this year, and I know I fell short last year. This is what I was able to do last year, and this is what the limitations were. This is where my shortcomings were. We look at the fact that we didn't hit our goals, and it becomes that much more difficult to dream big, that much more painful to think about being confident in achieving your goals, and you start thinking about plan B. Who's had that problem before? Raise your hand. Okay. All right. So how do we overcome that? How do we not define ourselves by our past performances? The important thing to look at is, how do we connect the dots? If you look at Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, Lincoln, Thomas Edison, any of these people that had incredible failure and at incredibly high levels, that everybody was watching them. I mean, who's actually looking at my business with a magnifying glass and just like, wow, this guy sucks, nobody really. And yeah, right, but who's actually dissecting and looking at my failures? Besides myself, nobody really, right?
Right now.
And yeah.
Right now, your grandkids will.
Yeah, right.
Isn't that the definition of a wife?
Yeah. Slam. So the thing is that these big successes, it's so easy to look at Steve Jobs and think, yeah, or even Elon Musk, right? He's literally a day away from bankruptcy with SpaceX and with Tesla. Next day, both those businesses go bankrupt. So imagine the stress level, the failure in his mind of like, oh my gosh. I mean, before he got the funding, right? It's so easy for us to think, well, yeah, he's freaking Elon Musk. Oh yeah, he's going to be successful. He knows he's going to be successful. So, I mean, what's the difference? I mean, he's different than me. I'm a different case because I don't know I'm going to be successful. We have to learn to connect the dots, just like a lot of these big examples. These are just big names that get exposed for, their failures and their successes get exposed, and so we can use these as examples. But there's millions of examples around this all around us. So when we are in that moment of where we're just trying to push through, we're trying to keep our mindset right, we need to be able to connect the dots and realize this is all part of my story. This is just going to be part of my story when my grandkids are dissecting my business, like John said. It's going to be part of that journey. That this is what my grandfather had to overcome. This is what Grandma Lisa had to overcome, right? Okay, so connect the dots. Is there two ends?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Oh, one book that I wanted to recommend actually for this is Failing Forward by Maxwell. An incredible book about failure. It's called Failing Forward, and essentially what it goes over is just that. How do you push past those failures and look at them as stepping stones versus more like, I think one of the lines from it is that there's no such thing as failure, just feedback, things like that. I mean, it's
Learning.
a fantastic book.
We're actually reading that book next, so let them know.
Oh, good. We're
Yeah.
reading that book next
That's
time.
gonna be our
So-
next book, guys.
So go ahead and buy that right now. All right. Okay, and then one thing that really helps me when I'm trying to, when my mindset's kind of in a funk a little bit, and I'm trying to get past that, when I maybe a couple deals fell apart, or I'm falling short on my monthly goals, I'll do a little session for about 20 or 30 minutes in the morning, and I'll write down lies, problems, and solutions. And the lies are just the straight up things that are literally going on in your mind that aren't even true. And you'll be surprised when you put pen to paper and you write down exactly how you're feeling, and it sounds like a negative affirmation, but when you write it down, like, this is how I feel right now, and then you write down if it is a problem or if it's a lie, and then if it's a problem, what's your solution? And that's been incredibly helpful for me to dissect what's really going on in my head and figure out how I can fix it. All right. Okay. The third thing I want to talk about is growth mindset. Growth mindset is, anybody read the book, Mindset, New Psychology, Success? No? Mindset, The New Psychology of Success. I think it's Carol Swick or something like that. And in my favorite book of all time, it talks about growth mindset versus fixed mindset. The problem that we have in our society is we go off of IQ tests, and we look at all these indicators of what's going to make it so somebody's intelligent, or determine if they're going to be successful, or if they're going to make a good student. And how bullcrap is that? Because you can't take a test and determine how determined somebody's going to be to learn and to grow and to keep pushing forward. I mean, think about this. There are so many more talented people than the late Kobe Bryant. So many more talented people.
Well,
Well, it's probably, I mean, reality is there are probably thousands.
For the longest time, LeBron James got so much crap because he was a lazy, talented.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, he's probably lazy. He's all relative, right? He's in the NBA, but yeah, probably not in comparison to Kobe Bryant.
Well, everyone expected him to be bigger than Kobe Bryant, but because of his work ethic wasn't as much, it never materialized.
Right. Well, I wouldn't say it never. He's still doing great, right? He's probably gonna get a ring this year. Just saying. But,
I mean, it's just the impact that Kobe brings to the world. You know.
what was that?
It's just the impact that he brought to the world.
Oh, right.
The change and the motivation that he brought to everyone else. It's just, it's his presence. It's not so much how good he personally is, and there's a lot of people better than him, just like you said, but it's the impact that he's made.
Right. Well, I would say, so I grew up like huge Kobe fan, grew up in California, so Kobe Bryant's like literally a god to me. But the thing about Kobe is, if you read any of the material, it talks about his routines and what George talks about, his habits, routines, rituals, habits, rituals, and patterns, right? He would literally go and take the shots. He would shoot 1,000 shots at every position that he missed that last game. That night, he'd go back to the court and he'd shoot thousands of shots for the spots that he missed. And that's what made him a champion, right? And I know Wayne knows. Hopefully I'm spitting out the right stuff. Wayne. I know you're a big basketball fan. All right, so the this growth mindset. Sorry, did you have a comment?
Yeah, on that growth mindset. It was weird because like at that Everest sales system, remember that
Elevate.
Copeland, yeah, he was like he told a story about Iverson and Kobe.
Yeah.
And like I'm sure you know, remember Kobe and Iverson in his press conference was like practice.
Yeah, right.
You remember that?
Yeah.
And it's like now look at the difference in like the legacy of those two. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
it's weird. Anyway.
Absolutely, yeah. So
Like, yeah.
the concept with this growth mindset is the fixed versus the growth mindset. Fixed basically essentially means that you are intelligent or you're not intelligent, and growth mindset means that you can continue to grow and improve. Okay, and the thing that I was hinting at earlier that is maybe something that we need to overcome is we're trying to convince ourselves that we are, when we have a fixed mindset, we try to convince ourselves that we're the winner, we're the talented person that has it, right? And the way that she puts it is so perfect. I remember exactly, very vividly, exactly what she says is you're pretending you have a royal flush when you're scared you have a pair of tooths. And what that means is that you are portraying to everybody else that I'm a success. I'm a success. I'm smart. And I know, right? But on the inside, you're scared you don't know. You're scared you don't have it. And the whole argument here is that there is no such thing as it. You have to overcome your shortcomings, strengthen those things, the areas that are weaknesses, and go to the next level. Okay. Any questions or comments about that?
Yeah, right here. I've read recently that your emotional intelligence actually can determine more your success or performance than your literal IQ.
100%.
Your emotional intelligence outweighs your intellectual.
Yeah, how many hothead smart people do you know that are, that's, how much do you want to talk to those people, right? And that's a perfect example.
So that's something we can all grow in. We might not be able to change genetically what our intelligence is, right? But we all can grow in our emotional intelligence.
Yeah, and the part I wanted to point out with this mindset portion of this is how much do we really believe that we can accomplish anything? And I mean like anything. If you wanted to be a physicist, Mike, you could do it. It just takes hours and hours and hours of practice, right? You can learn how to do this equation and then learn how to move on to this equation and then learn how to understand this concept and then that concept, right? One bite at a time, right? It's just a matter of time. How long the coaches you have and how much time you have, right? Before you obtain that goal. So I want you to think about that. Do you really believe that you're capable of anything? And I think this is probably, if I was going to say like top 5 things that I've learned that I've helped change my mind, is I really honestly believe that I can be successful at anything if I have enough time and if I have the right coach. And I think that's a really important concept to be able to have confidence that you're going to be successful in what you're trying to do. All right, so the last thing I want to talk about, I'm probably good on time. Okay, so 4th thing is I wanted to talk about the right people. This is kind of something I added actually while I was sitting down over there, because one thing that I think is really important a really important thing to me is the people that I surround myself with that believe in me and that I know are producing at a high level. And I haven't really refined exactly what I wanted to say here, but you know, when you sit down with somebody like George or Judy or somebody that you have a lot of confidence in and it's been successful, and they honestly believe that you can get there too, that really helps your confidence level. And you can overcome a lot of your own doubts, right? And I think that's one of the reasons why it's so important to be in coaching, and whatever coaching program you're doing, because obviously they're going to help you with tactics, strategies, all that stuff, but you just need somebody to continually remind you that you're on the path. Like, this is the path of success. Just reminding you, you're literally on the yellow brick road. Just keep on going, keep on going. And I was thinking about this. Who looks at coaching as an expense? Honestly. Yeah, as an expense. And obviously you have to have the right coach to have this mentality, but if you have the right coach, it should be a savings to you, because that will allow you to overcome overcome your own shortcomings, but also avoid pitfalls in the business. And I hired somebody for my website just recently. Sorry, 1 second, Sean. And it was so obvious that I was going to save money with this guy because he knew so much more than me. And he was explaining to me, well, what about this? What about this? Asking me all the right questions, and I knew you knew the answers. And it was so apparent to me he was going to save me thousands of dollars, just like my tax consultant, right? It's like, yes, I spend $1,500 on a tax consultant, but how much money does he save me, right? And the same thing, that's coaching, right? What are they doing for you to make that much more money for you, and also avoid all these pitfalls and shortcuts that you're gonna the routes you go down by yourself, right? John?
So on the beginning of the movie Blindside, the dominant female character says that the average household, their number one biggest expense is their mortgage, and their second biggest expense that everyone's going to cut or pay is insurance. And that's what a coach is, their insurance or protection from loss.
Absolutely. That's a really good, I've never heard that before.
Yeah. So, and having a coach is important, very important. And I learned that the hard way at the gym when I broke my back because I didn't have a health coach or a gym coach. That happened. That happened years ago. But and as important as coaches are, who's your fan club?
Oh yeah, I love that.
If you don't believe in your why enough that you can produce a fan club, are you gonna really hit it?
Right. Thank you for sharing that, John. That's really profound. So for myself, I know for a fact I have at least like 4 areas of my life. I have to think about it, but I have a life coach, and I have several coaches for my business, and that's probably my biggest expense from an outgoing side. But I think there's no way that I'd be able to do what I do now, and I'll be able to do what I do this year and moving forward without these people. So anyways.
Real quick, I just want to say I love this point the most because everything is driven by mindset. Mm-hmm. If you have the right mindset, you think about your why, and you can dream big, and everything else follows. Being around the right people, day in, day out, the encouraging people, the positive people, and the people that you coach with allows you to have that constant refinement in your day-to-day business. and in personal life and business. It's so important. When I'm not here and I missed this morning and it threw off my day, even though I had a responsibility to do something else. But still, it's like it breaks your patterns and you're like, oh, you know, you get that. But being here drives me to think positive and to be helpful and to grow on a daily basis. So it honestly does drive you to become better, even though you might not think how much it contributes to your daily routines. It really does.
Absolutely. Yeah, and the fan club, you know, thinking about this concept that John's talking about, I've never put that term to it, but you know, being around everybody that's in this room, and you know, a lot of the other people in the brokerage, it's that's been a total game changer for me.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, everybody has different perspectives, different strengths, and just opening up your mind to what they have to share has been so.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I can't even put that to words really, but. Okay, cool. So the last, actually, I want to do an exercise with everybody, talking about this concept about the growth mindset, and so. Ruby, you're going to do your thing. All right, hopefully everybody has a pen and a piece of paper or a phone or something they can take notes on. All right, so what I want you to do is think about what, if you knew that you could not fail, if that was, you had 100% certainty that you would not fail in anything that you try to do, what would you choose to accomplish?
Namaste.